Hello everybody and welcome back to this episode of the MSR Workshop. So today's video we're going to be doing a maintenance video on this jet bandsaw. This bandsaw I would consider a pretty much brand new saw, but there's something we got to change to make it better, so stick around. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing on this bandsaw is we're going to be replacing the tires. Now, when I first got this bandsaw, I meant to have it primarily be used to make bandsaw boxes. And I have only put a 1/8 inch blade on it so far. And so far it's worked okay, but I've had a little bit of problem with it tracking. Even on that little bitty 1/8 inch blade, it doesn't want to stay in the center of the tire. Now, I know most of you, if you've watched the Alex Snodgrass videos, you talk about, putting the deepest part of your gullet on the crown of the tire, and that's kind of where you like to keep it. On a little 1/8 inch blade, dead center of the top of the tire, it's pretty much where you want it just because that blade is so small. I couldn't even get this to do it. It either wanted to ride forward or ride to the back. So that got me looking at the tire compound itself. Now, if you've watched my other video on this Powermatic behind me, you'll know I had to replace the tires on this one. And that was because of a little bit of a vibration issue as well as, a little bit of blade movement. And while the tires on this Powermatic saw I found were too hard, what I've discovered on this saw is the compound on this one is too soft. Yeah, this kind of sounds like the Goldilocks with, the Three Little Bears, not Goldilocks, where the porridge is too hot or too cold. We want something that's just right. That's exactly what we want to do today. So I'm going to open this up, show you what we're going to do, show you what we're putting on this, and show you what was on it. So the tires that were on this saw, I've already taken off. But originally I thought the tires are some sort of urethane because they were a little bit softer than, your typical rubber tires. Well, when I pulled these off, they are just rubber, but they're very soft rubber. As you can see, I can actually stretch these tires quite easily. The tires were glued on. They weren't glued on with a heavy glue. It was some kind of like a rubber cement. So they are quite easy to pull off. But you'll notice that there's a lot of stretch to them, and when you stretch them, they don't seem to return back to the original shape just immediately. When I stretch them, I'll notice that in spots, I'll have just a little spot where I've kind of overstretched. It's literally just like a big rubber band, and if you squeeze a rubber band, it's almost that consistency. It's a bit harder, obviously, but yeah, big rubber band. So, in the mail yesterday, I got a set of my replacement tires, and they are going to be the same tires that I used on this Powermatic. I will leave a link in the description below, but they are a brand called Blue Max. I was super impressed with the quality on the Powermatic, and so I wanted to order another set of these for this saw. Now, they pretty much will make any tire for any saw. Now, if you don't see it, because they sell primarily on eBay, if you don't see them listed, stop right there and email the guy that runs the eBay website, because he will usually email you right back within an hour. He will send you the correct link for your specific saw, so you're guaranteed to order the right ones. These come with a warranty as well. Now, he did not sponsor me. He did not send these to me. I paid with these with my own money, but I like these so much that I wanted to share this with you guys. So let's get these installed, and I'll show you the process for installing them. So the process that I recommend for installing any set of bandsaw tires is take your wheels off. They're very simple to do. Now, I've already loosened this one a little bit, but there is one screw that's in the middle. and then these just pull straight off. Should be the same with most newer bandsaws. Older bandsaws should be exactly the same either. Now the bottom is just slightly different because you do have the belt to deal with, but we'll do that one too. Now looking at these tires from the top, they do appear to be crowned, which is a good thing. Now with replacing with urethane tires, it's a little bit harder to crown a tire that the wheel is not already crowned. Saying if you have a flat wheel and you want to crown that just a little bit, it's hard to do with urethane because urethane doesn't shape quite as easy. If you do end up wanting to crown your own tires, I'd probably recommend getting a rubber tire because the hard rubber compound is easier to kind of shave off with sandpaper. So you can kind of put the rubber on, glue it on, and then use some sandpaper to kind of create your own crown in the compound itself versus being able just to shape to the wheel itself already. Now, I have tried the Carter tires. I do not like the Carter tires because one, they're kind of a tacky compound, and also they're a lot thinner. And the problem that you'll run into with thin rubber tires is the sidewalls of your wheel will usually be taller than the Carter tires themselves. So if you have a wide blade that's curved, that wide blade can risk hitting this wheel sidewall. So you want to stick with the manufacturer's recommended height or what came off of it. In this case, it's going to be about a 1/8 inch thick. I can't talk right this morning. So this rubber raises up above these wheel sidewalls. So if you do run a wide blade, you don't risk hitting the edges. Now, if you've read any of the other tire manufacturer recommendations, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them, they recommend putting these in hot water, boiling them, and then stretching them over the tire. I'm going to tell you to stop right there and don't do that. And here's why. Now, I know every tire manufacturer, their compound is going to be slightly tailored to them, and so what's in it is going to be different. But imagine this, you are heating a plastic up, some sort of urethane plastic mixture, whatever you want to call it, and then you're stretching it. By the time you have stretched it, so you've pulled it out of the hot boiling water, you've stretched it. By the time you get it on the tire, because it's going to take you a few seconds, that rubber will have cooled down. Most of the time, when you heat a plastic up, stretch it, and then cool it down, it's going to retain its shape. So you've deformed this plastic beyond its normal fit size, stretched it on this tire. It's going to want to stay in that length. So it's not going to fit as tight, and you run the risk of overstretching that tire and then it not staying on your wheel properly. Because if you were to reheat that plastic up, most of the time plastics will return to their original manufactured shape. And you can try this with something. You can try this with a straw, put it under boiling water, bend it, stick it under some cold water, and it's going to stay in that shape until you heat it back up, and you're going to see it go back to that original shape that it was created in. So spend a little bit of extra time, but I don't recommend heating these rubber tires up. It may make it slightly more difficult to put on, but these are pretty easy to install if you follow the steps that I'm going to give you. So in the package of tires, and I'm going to kneel down just so you guys can see my face just for a minute, you're going to get this little tool. Now it's just a dowel rod with a nail in it, and then you have a rubber sleeve over it. And that's meant to run along the edge, that's so you can get all the stretch out of the tire and make sure it's evened up all the way. And they send you with that in the package, and then you get 2 tires with your purchase. Now the best way that I found to get these in is first get a side on, kind of get it tucked in there, and let's stand this up here. So as much as you can. Then taking a quick clamp, clamp one side of the tire, get that tucked back in there. And if it's not seated perfectly in the groove, don't worry about that, because we'll go back around and get that. So now that you've got both sides locked in, we're going to do a pull-up on this, and I'm going to have to bring this over on the floor here. Okay, so on this tire, it's small. The hole opening is small, so I'll get you another clamp and maybe put it on there sideways. And that should give you something to kind of put your foot on, keep the tire down, and then just start working it up. Don't get your fingers in the way. And then just start scooting it over. That tire is on. Now we're just going to go around, make sure it's seated inside that track all the way. And it should fit nice and tight all the way around. So to get the bottom wheel off, you first are going to have to loosen the tension on the belt. So you're going to loosen these two screws, and you are going to use a 8mm Allen key. Loosen these and then just lift up on the motor and then just finger tighten these back down, and that is going to put detension the belt, and then you can just slide the wheel right off by taking that center bolt off. So the bottom wheel I was not able to get off. So this is a really large nut down here that it is Loctited on. You can see the blue stuff around here. So we're going to attempt to install this on the machine. Now, once again, I recommend anytime you're able to take your bandsaw wheel off, go ahead and do that, because it makes installing so much easier, and smoothing out and getting rid of any stretched places on the wheel and all of that. It just really is almost essential to take this off. But we are going to do it the hard way and leave it on, and hope we can do it. Now let's see, I need another clamp. Now this last clamp here is I'm going to try to keep it from moving. And now I'm going to start shoving this on one little corner at a time. And this reminds me a lot, actually let's do this side here. Of putting a tire on a tubeless bicycle rim. And there's a lot of fiddling and using your fingers to kind of roll the bead on like you would a tire. And that one's not going to hold. Let's try a better one. That's just to keep it from sliding off here. There, that should do it. Moral of the story is, use the tool that they sent you if you got to do it with the wheel on. Because that's what they sent it for. And once again, I still didn't spend hours doing this like some people claim they do, or, you know, some ridiculous amount of time. And what I'm doing here is just seating this all the way around the edge. All right, that looks pretty darn good. Now the real moment of truth is when I stick this thing on, are we going to have any of the tracking issues that I did before? So we got the tire installed, and it wasn't perfect. Now, it wasn't the miracle tire that I was hoping for, but I do think it's better than the compound that comes on it, so I still do recommend it. Now, because I'm using this Carter rear stabilizer guide, I could track it backwards, and then I can, keep it tracked in the middle. Now, I found that this jet saw, the tracking adjustment is very, very finicky, and it could be one thing that the threads on the tracking screw are a little bit coarse. If you put a little bit finer thread, then a little bit of a turn might soften up the adjustment a little bit, but still we got it to work. And so let me bring the camera in here and you can see how the blade's tracking. So here's the 3/16 blade with a 4/2 per inch tracking, and it looks pretty good. The tire seated really well. It was nice and tight, so I did not have to glue it on. But I will make sure to throw a link up in the description where to get these, and I recommend to send them your model, and they will send you back the length of the specific tire that you need. Okay, let's do a cut test here. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the performance of these tires. As you can see, it was able to make those tight turns. It didn't seem to have any problems, didn't bog down, and my cuts are pretty smooth. Now, long term is what's going to be the most important to see how these tires do. So far, I'm getting pretty good tracking. I haven't had any problems yet. Obviously, I haven't used it that long. Now, if there's anything I have left out in this video, be sure and leave them in the comments below. I try to respond to everybody. And if you have any suggestions or would like to see any future videos, also leave those below. I'll make sure to leave a link up where you can get this, also where you can get this Carter stabilizer. And last but not least, be sure and hit that like and subscribe button and stay tuned for my next video. Thanks, guys.